Hello, fellow book nerds. Today we're going to be talking about the dead or the undead, I guess. So, the concept of the video is basically to talk about all the books that I know or that I want to read that have some kind of dead or undead. So, we're going to be talking ghosts, vampires, and zombies. So, I'm going to give you some book recommendations, and it's all going to be super exciting, and we're just all happy we're here. So we're gonna start with ghosts. And the first book I want to recommend to you is Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. So in this book we follow a young trans boy who is a brujo. He belongs to the Latinx community and his family is part of this bruja and brujex community, and they can commune with the dead, and women and men have very different gifts from he's like a goddess of death. So basically men get like ability to expunge ghosts and get rid of them, and women get ability to heal. Because the main character is a trans boy, he wants to go through the ceremony for brujo, the male version, because he's a boy. But his family is worried that because he was born a girl, the ceremony won't work and something will happen to him. So they're not allowing it. So he decides to go with it anyway and gets help from his favorite cousin. And in the process, something happens and he's followed around by a ghost who is a boy that used to go to his school. So we kind of follow the two of them. It's a male-male romance, and they try to uncover what happened to the boy, why he died, and kind of like there's a wider conspiracy going on as well. I love this book. It was such a cool story. I do think that the plot it was a bit cliche in the sense that it went on a lot of tropes and like plot twists that have been so overdone that they don't feel like a plot twist anymore. But that being said, I enjoyed the world, I enjoyed the magic system, I enjoyed the characters, and the romance was cute, so all of it works in the end. So I would actually recommend it, and I would say that maybe don't prepare yourself for like being mind blown away by the plot twist, but you still probably will have a great time. I really love how the culture was explored and how the ghost worked with the bruja and brujex and all of that. Overall, that was really, really fun. I really enjoyed the story, and it's like a really atmospheric, so great to read around this time. Second one is a bit of a weird one, but like I feel like it counts. So it's The Infinity Course by Akemi Bowman. So in this book we follow a girl who gets murdered in a gas stop. Is it called? Yeah, gas stop. So she gets murdered, she dies, and her awareness gets transported to this like kind of cloud where it's all the people go, and it's the afterlife, but the afterlife has been taken over by an AI. So think an Alexa in our the real world, but it's kind of like a similar version to that, and Alexa took over the world and wants to basically wreak revenge on all the people because she thinks she's been mistreated and she's underappreciated. So she took over the afterlife, and now people are basically slaves. So it's not a traditional ghost story, but it's definitely like the main character is dead, and this is definitely the afterlife. And I think it's like really cool to deal with all of the characters being dead and not just like a ghost being one of the characters among the living. So this is 100% of the story, I mean, up to the point where she dies in normal world, but then once she dies, it's all in the afterlife. I found it super fascinating, really, really fun. I liked it. It was a very fast-paced story, really interesting, intriguing, and a really good time overall. So I would recommend it. A bit of a different one, but if you're into that kind of thing, go for it, and like, yay for YA sci-fi. The next one is a interesting one as well. So it is The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia. So in this book we follow a girl who gets visited by the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future from the Christmas Carol, and they tell her that she has to change her ways or she will die on the next day. And she's like, yeah, whatever, it was a stupid dream. So she doesn't change her way and then ends up dying. And now it's been 5 years and she's actually employed in this Christmas Carol, like Project Scrooge kind of undertaking. So basically every year she plays the ghost of, was it Future Past? I think it was Future Past. She plays the ghost of Future Past, and she has to show the people like the past basically and try to move future possible Scrooges away from their terrible future, because if they change their ways, they live a happy life and the world gets better. So it's about her and trying to be a better person, maybe failing most of the time, and overall it was a great time. I would recommend it more for Christmas. It is a Christmas story, so like read it around Christmas, you're gonna have a great time. I really believe that. But I really loved it. The main character was like a ghost, but she could still interact with the main world because of her role in the Scrooge undertaking. And it's just such a story about growth and changing, and I had a great time. So I would really highly recommend. But yeah, this is one for the books. It's a really good book, and technically has ghosts, so it's fine. Like many ghosts. The Force Ghost book I not actually read, but this is a book that I really want to read, so I thought I'd put it on your radar. And it's called Blackwater Sister by Zen Cho. I think we follow a main character who's Hong Kongese, and I think she was raised in America maybe, and her grandma dies, and I think she goes to Hong Kong to like visit her family, but she gets possessed by a ghost, I think of her grandma or someone, or she gets possessed by some ghost from her family, and it's like she's a lesbian, I think, and it's like a lot of like she hears the voice in her head and she's half possessed, and it's like about, I think it's story about family and coming to your own and marrying tradition and your culture with who you really are and that kind of thing. So I'm very excited. Sounds banging. But I've not read that one, so I can't tell for sure, but I think it sounds really good, and the reviews I've been seeing, it looked really amazing. Okay, the second section is vampires. So the thing is, I read a lot of vampires books, but they're like the typical teenage vampire books you think of, like obviously Twilight, Vampire Academy, Marked, or whatever that is called, pretty much every other vampire book ever. So I thought, I don't want to recommend you that. Either you know about them and you've read them, or you don't know about them but you don't care. So we're gonna just talk about one book that I actually read and two books that I want to read. I think this one is like a really good one because it's less known. The book I want to recommend to you is The Marionettes by Katie Wismer. So in this book we follow a witch who is in this school for witches who want to train to become the Marionettes, who's like an elite force of witches that help vampires. And the vampires in this world are running the world basically. Their whole schedule's flipped, so they like live at night and sleep during the day, and they have all the power, like the royalties, vampires, and all of that. And I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was really fun. It's self-published, so if you wanted something like more under the radar or something, check it out. It just came out, and the second book is coming out in December as well. But it was very well written. The story was really engaging, and the vampires were really interesting, and I really liked seeing the vampires being the rulers actually, because I think it makes for an interesting world, and it was just really fun. And it's also a paranormal romance, although there's not been that much romance in this book. But I believe there's going to be loads of romance in the consecutive books in the series. So definitely check it out. Very interesting vampires, and I can't wait for the sequel. So the book that I'm very excited that is about vampires and I really want to read, it's called Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. So in this book, we are in the vampire Mexico City, an oasis in sea of vampires. Domingo, a lonely garbage collecting street kid, is just trying to survive its heavily police streets when a jaded vampire on the run swoops in to save his life. Alt, the descendant of Aztec blood drinkers, is smart, beautiful, and dangerous. Domingo is mesmerized. Needs to quickly escape the city. Found from the rival narco-vampire clan relentlessly pursuing her. Her plan does include Domingo. Atle, finds herself warming up to a scrappy young man and his undeniable charm. As a trail of corpses stretches behind her, local cops and crime bosses both start closing in. So the reason I'm really interested in this one is because I watched Kira's review, Kira the book Bella, and she talked about like how many different types of vampires there are, and it sounds like there's like at least a dozen, and each of them have different powers, different abilities, different weaknesses, different strengths, and like sounds a little bit like each is plucking from different perception and the portrayals and beliefs about vampires from around the world, from around the cultural spectrum or whatever. So it just sounds really cool, and like you're getting more than just like traditional boring old vampire, but you're also getting like this whole world, and it's so exciting and just sounds really good. So I'm super happy for that one. I'm gonna read it as soon as I can. But it just sounds so good, and I need to read something from Silvia Moreno-Garcia because boy, does she have a lot of books that I need to read. And another book I'm excited for is Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. So I think it came out recently. I was like super hyped and I was going to read it right away. But the hype since then, at least in me, has died down a little bit. But basically, this is by the author of Nevernight, which is a grimdark fantasy. So I think this one is a similar one. I don't actually know what it's about. I don't really want to spoil myself. But I've heard that it's about a vampire that's like at the end of his life or like in prison or something, and he recounts his life. So it's kind of like the Name of the Wind in its story structure. Knowing Jay Kristoff, there's a lot of swearing, a lot of sex, a lot of blood, gore, and all of that good vampire stuff. So I am quite cautiously optimistic, but I am really curious to see what you think if you've actually read it, because I've not heard much. And the first categories are zombies. I don't read many books of zombies, and I feel like most of them are very like... Most of the ones I actually researched were all very not my type of story, so like World War Z or something. But I got a couple with like undead and kind of technically zombies. So you can see what you think. So let's start with the first one that's more like traditional zombies. So this is Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion. So you probably remember it used to be a movie with, is it Nicholas Hoult, the guy that was in The Skins, the UK version. And it's about a world where there was a zombie outbreak, and basically most people got infected, and our main character is actually a zombie, and his name's Ed, I think, or something like that, and he meets this human girl. I think she's looking for her boyfriend or something, or her brother, I don't remember, but she's looking for someone, and then the zombie helps her, and there's a romance. And like, I read it many years ago, but I remember having a great time reading it. It's more like a fun popcorn flick, and even the movie I thought was pretty cool and pretty cute, and I really like the main character. I really like the actor who plays the main character, and it was just a good time. If you need like a it's like a zombie story, but from a different angle. The zombies are not totally mindless, but they're not super intelligent either, and it's fun to have a main protagonist be a zombie, because it's just like, I don't know, shenanigans. And I remember thinking his internal monologue was really funny. Again, it's been years, so I can't like exactly stand by that, but I'm pretty sure like the book was really funny and witty and hilarious, so I would recommend it. And if not, watch the movie. The movie was pretty good as well, but I think it did miss out on that internal hilariousness. Next up, we have The Bone Witch by Chupeco. So this book is a YA, but kind of like a dark YA. We follow our main character T, who lives in a village with her family, and one day her brother, I think he went to war and came back, and he was dead, and they just brought back his body, and she's so upset that she brings him back to life. So in this world there are different types of witches, and one type of witches is a bone witch who can actually bring people back to life. But her brother's not not human, not normal. He's kind of like a zombie, but maybe like slightly smarter than a zombie. I don't even think he speaks. So he just becomes like, really attached to her because of the magic. So he can't really survive without her. So I think they get exiled from their village, and they have to go study with other witches to not cause harm and have for T to have control over her powers. I really enjoyed this book. It was very slow, so I don't know if you're into that kind of thing, but it was a really slow story. Not much happens. You're kind of just hanging out and waiting in learning. You're there with her for like a long period of her life, and I really enjoyed the relationship between her and her brother. I don't want to say he became like a pet, because that sounds really bad, but like he's like half dead, you know, like what I mean. He's a walking around corpse basically, with like minimum awareness. So it's kind of like a weird dynamic where you really grow to care for him, but he's not fully fleshed out character, and we don't even know him that well because he died at the beginning of the story. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I do think that consecutive books get even more in it with the necromancy, so if you're into that, I'll probably continue. I want to continue eventually, but it's been so long and I don't remember anything, so that's the only thing. But yeah, totally would recommend. Really good book. Okay, and the last book that I want to talk about is a book that I actually want to read because I've not read, but it's the Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. So in this book, the Emperor needs necromancers. The ninth necromancer needs a swordswoman. Gideon has a sword, some dirty magazines, and no more time for undead bullshit. Brought up by unfriendly, ossifying nuns, ancient retainers, and countless skeletons, Gideon is ready to abandon a life of servitude and an afterlife as a reanimated corpse. She packs up her sword, her shoes, and her dirty magazines and prepares to launch her daring escape. But the childhood nemesis won't set her free without a service. Harrow Hart, Reverend Daughter of the Ninth House and Bone Witch Extraordinaire, has been summoned into action. The Emperor has invited her heirs to each of his loyal houses to a deadly trial of wit and skill. If Harrowhawk succeeds, she will become an immortal, all-powerful servant of the resurrection. But no necromancer can ascend without the Cavalier. Without Gideon's sword, Harrow will fail and the Ninth House will die. Of course, some things are better left dead. So that's Harrow the Ninth. I'm super cautiously optimistic. I feel like when the book came out, there were so many bad reviews, so I was like, okay, I don't want to read it. Since then, everyone's been saying they love it, so I really don't know. I really don't know. You're confusing me, okay? Confusing me. It's a lesbian romance. Sounds like it's very like fun with the dirty magazines being mentioned and stuff. Just like weird and camp. I love weird and camp, so I have high hopes. So that's it for all the books about the dead. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. If you found any new books I want to check out, let me know in the comments as well. If you want to recommend any vampire, ghost, or zombie book to me, please do. I'd love to check them out. I really need to expand my collection. But if you enjoyed the video, if you could comment, like, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. It really helps me out. But that's it from me, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!